Hi, my name is David Bergmanson, and for the September 28th, 2021 edition of the World Weather Watcher, we're going to be zooming into the southeastern part of China and Kenya to have a look at how weather variability is impacting on food production in these parts of the world. Now, the news last week has been very interesting. 2 days ago, on September 26th, Science published a very interesting article looking at the impact of climate change between generations, looking at a baby born today compared to a person who's 60 years of age today, as far as the number of drought and wildfires they're likely to experience during their lifetime. A baby will experience twice as many wildfires, for example, as someone who's 60 years old today. And a baby will also experience 3 times as many flood and crop failure events in their lifetime as someone who's 60 years old today. So this all points to the need for understanding our climate, and it's been very interesting that we've seen a lot of stories of climate change. It's hard to escape them, whether you watch the news or read the newspaper. Most of those stories are focused on events taking place in North America or Europe. But in Africa, there's been many impacts of weather extremes on citizens across the African continent, and the Independent highlighted the fact that a lot of these stories go unreported. And so the need for climate science is very important for Africa. And in the Washington Post, it was reported this week that a lack of weather data in Africa is undermining critical climate research on the continent. And I'd just like to flag that aWhere actually has available to the research community of Africa and beyond 370,000 complete weather stations going all the way back to 2006, and soon it'll go back to 2001, to use to understand the actual local weather pattern shifts that have taken place over the last 2 decades. And so we really encourage research organizations, development banks, industries, and governments to reach out to us so that we can help you use this data and analytical tools to start developing strategies on how to adapt to climate change in your country, regardless of where you are in Africa. So now when we look to the last 30 days for precipitation, we see that the northern part of South America a little bit wetter than normal. Same is true for the central part of Mexico. Also the central part of Africa, quite a bit wetter than normal, especially for places like South Sudan, and the potential there for flooding given the above normal rainfall last 30 days. We also see wetter than normal conditions in the northern part of China, and yet in the southeastern part of China, quite a bit drier than normal conditions that is impacting on agriculture in that part of China. We also see that for the southern part of Europe, a little bit drier than normal. When we look to the next 15 days, we see that precipitation will be a little bit below normal for the central part of Africa, a little above normal for much of India, a little below normal for the southeastern part of China, and also a little below normal for the western part of Russia. Looking to maximum temperature the last 30 days, areas that have been hotter than normal include the central part of the United States, the southern part of South America, especially Uruguay, also the northern part of Africa, warmer than normal. We see through the Middle East, warmer than normal, and cooler than normal for Kazakhstan into the western part of Russia. Looking to the next 15 days, we see warmer than normal conditions in the central part of Canada, a little cooler than normal for most of Mexico the next 15 days, warmer than normal for the central part of South America, as well as the southern part of Africa, a little cooler than normal for India, and the northern part of China, while we see warmer than normal conditions for the southern part of China. Looking to precipitation the next 15 days, we see good precipitation across most of the United States, through Mexico, good precipitation across West Africa, good rains through most of India, as well as Southeast Asia. Looking at the ratio of precipitation over potential evapotranspiration as an index to help us gauge water stress for rain-fed agriculture, we see that the western United States, below that critical threshold of 0.8 to support a crop like corn or maize, therefore it's in red. However, most of Mexico has had good growing conditions the last 30 days, indicated by green, extending all the way down into the northern part of South America. Across West Africa, through down to the central part of the Democratic Republic of Congo, good growing conditions for crops. We also see for most of India, good growing conditions the last 30 days for crops, as well as for Southeast Asia. Looking to the next 15 days, we see good growing conditions continuing for the southern part of Mexico to the northern part of South America. Relatively good growing conditions for West Africa, although looking like the growing season is starting to taper off in some parts of West Africa. Good growing conditions for the forecast in India, Southeast Asia, as well as for the central part of Europe. Now, in the news, we've been hearing about food insecurity in several districts of Kenya, and we thought it might be useful just to go back through time and have a look at what the long-term normal is for this critical ratio for rain-fed agriculture, indicated here on the left, where we see rain-fed agriculture is supported well in the western and central parts of Kenya normally for the October to December rains. However, last year, the rains were good in the western part of Kenya, but insufficient in the central part of Kenya to support agriculture. And what we see then in the March to May rains for 2021 is that trend has continued. While it was better than the October rains, still this year, much lower rainfall, leading to less than ideal conditions for cultivating field crops in the central part of Kenya. And this has been the major trigger for food insecurity in many districts of Kenya this year. We're going to be tracking this in the future. This is the forecast here for this critical ratio of P over PET in Kenya. And we can see that the rains are starting near the lake area of Kenya in the west and moving eastward towards central Kenya, reaching as far as the western part of Meru district. We're going to be watching this closely, but it is good to know that in partnership with the Kenyan Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization, KALRO, they are delivering climate-smart agriculture services to 190,000 smallholder farmers in Kenya using weather data to drive agronomic messages so farmers can optimize their farm operations, such as when to plant or when to apply fertilizer, to increase their productivity, profitability, and reduce the risk of crop failure. We'll keep you posted on our progress, but by using more than 6,700 weather stations, we're able to offer very localized recommendations to farmers through this service. And we can actually do this in any country across Africa using our 370,000 weather stations across Africa. One of the new indices that we've developed takes the FAO agroecological zones and converts those into 4 production zones across the world, either arid, marginal, suitable, or humid agriculture production zones based on long-term weather patterns, and then comparing those to current weather to see whether crops are under water stress. And by doing this, we're able to, in real time, track food security across the globe. So when we look to the last 30 days, we see that crop production has been good through Mexico all the way down to the northern part of South America, across West Africa, most of India, with the exception of South India, and then most of Southeast Asia. Very good crop conditions and therefore low risk of food insecurity. When we look to the next 15 days, we see that this trend largely holds true, although parts of Mexico now a little bit lower rainfall and therefore getting into a warning. We see also the same is true for West Africa, especially Ghana, for example. And this is to be expected as we see the approach of the end of the growing season for crops. We see good growing conditions for India, a little bit of drying up in the north part of India, again, as the cropping season ends. And this area here in southeast China cause for concern in the forecast, and we're going to drill into this in more detail. So when we look to the southeastern part of China, from Yunnan all the way over to Xinjiang in the northeast part of the coastal area of China, we see that this has been drier than normal and putting at risk crop production as farmers enter the final stages of their cropping season. Now, in the forecast, it's going to improve for some of these provinces, but still we're going to see in Zhejiang dry conditions here, as well as in Zhejiang dry conditions here as well will continue, and therefore the risk of food insecurity in these provinces of China. Now, we can actually drill in to understand in more detail for any specific location by looking at the weekly rainfall charts shown here in blue bars against the long-term normal shown in the gold line. And we can see that for most of the cropping season, for each of these areas of the southeastern part of China, that rainfall has been below normal. And in the case of Zhejiang and Zhejiang, that in the forecast, it's also significantly below normal. So in these areas, this continued risk of food insecurity will persist. If analytics like this are of interest to you, I invite you to go to our adapter platform at apps.aWhere.com, where you can start your weather analytics journey for free. Until next week, take care.